Good afternoon. It's a beautiful Thursday. I hope everybody's good. And I just stepped out for a run during my lunch because I had to do some daddy duties in the morning, so I couldn't go out. And I always love recording after my run, where I think and reflect. So yeah, I thought today I'll just extend the conversation from yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about why former Jehovah's Witnesses or people from cults, high control groups, struggle to trust themselves, right? And today I thought talk about the inner mechanisms that these high control religions use and how it impacts us psychologically as human beings, right? And my hope is that this will give some value to somebody who's going through it right now. I'm at a later stage of, coming out of it. So I'm just reflecting back on it as part of my letting go as well, And like I mentioned in my earlier videos, I always like to sort of come up with solutions to move forward. Um, I still do believe that all these religions, for the most part, are well meaning people, are good hearted people. They're good at the core and they're seeking what they believe is right. And it's up to us as individuals now to pick up the pieces that were broken by other people. Um, they just took their brokenness, passed it on to us, and it's up to us to pick up the pieces and mend our hearts, right, and mend ourselves. And yeah, so when you look at the biggest thing that's taken away from you that causes you to get to a place where you don't trust yourself or you don't trust your own decisions, it's your inner voice. And your inner voice is sort of a combination of your intuition, your preferences, your feelings, autonomy, self direction, right? Things that you want to do, how you think, how you feel, where you want to go, who you want to be with, what you want to do, those kinds of things. And those things are taken away from us through mechanisms such as obedience over autonomy, right? It is better to obey than to sacrifice. And it's hammered into you. Sorry, I recorded this, and this is my second time doing it. And um, it's a strange feeling when you've already said the thing before. Um, but I had a spam call come in and disrupt my whole flow. So now I'm trying to gather my thoughts again. But yeah, so obedience. Obedience is a big thing as a Jehovah's Witness. As a child, particularly, right? I mean, I see my child now. He's only one, but he works extremely hard overtime to keep mom and I together, right? He will literally drag my hand from the office to the kitchen to, and then take mom's hand and drag the both of us into the living room and have us sit down, and then he starts playing and doing whatever. And then when you get up, he comes, drags you again. He works really hard to keep us together, And as a child, if you're if you're being raised, excuse me, if you're being raised to think about obedience, 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 your survival instincts and mechanisms start to train you to say, okay, look for obedience because that's how you survive. That's how you get love. That's how you get food, right? That's how you get the things that you want if you obey. And that's kind of the training you get as a child, you know. Self-discovery is substituted for being right. If you want to explore certain things, particularly in your preteens, in your teens, in your young adult years, where you are supposed to test and experiment and discover, right? Make mistakes, fall down, get up. Um, no, you're supposed to be right. You have these tales. I remember personally where somebody that I knew, um, a girl, I think she was partying, drinking, that kind of thing. The accusation was she was doing drugs. I think she was doing weed at the time, and it was considered drugs at the time in the 90s. And she was 15, if I'm correct, and she was kicked out of the house. And seeing her after school, running because we lived in the same yard, she running. through the yard to her mom, crying, trying to, and then failing to convince her mom, and then she runs out crying. And it's, you see that, and it's like, obviously what happens, your parents or your people in your Jehovah's Witness community sit down and say, hey, you see what happened to her? Bad, bad, bad. That could happen to you. You got to make sure you're staying on the straight and narrow. You know, take the path, the narrow path. Um, so that self discovery, boom, gone like that. And now it's all about being right because you don't want to be like them, right? I had two examples that I knew close that were disfellowshipped. Others were not as close. They were relatives, but they were older and I didn't know them. So, and some of them weren't disfellowshipped. They just kind of drifted away. But they're used as cautionary tales for what could happen to you if you follow their path. If you have independent thought, that could happen to you. And for me, one of the insidious ways that your inner voice is taken away is this thing of labeling your preferences, your thoughts, your feelings, your desires, your self-direction. It's not outright labeled, but that could be the devil, right? I remember as a kid, one of my earliest memories of having this kind of conversation with my parents that was not following the line was me asking my dad, how do I know if God is talking to me? And the response was something to the effect of, if there's any voice talking to you, that's probably the devil, because God only speaks through the governing body and the faithful and discreet slave. And so now it's, if you have thoughts of a sexual nature towards a sister or a person of the opposite sex, could be the devil tempting you. If you want to go pursue higher education, you're pursuing worldly things, and the devil is drawing you in. If you want to pursue your career and make money, the love of money is about to grip you. The devil is influencing you. If you want to go to a party, to go to a concert, you are loving the things of the world. That could be the devil ensnaring you. Everything that you think, that you want, you know, your inner voice is labeled the devil. Every time you have an inner thought of something you want to do, it could be the devil. Could be the devil. So now your inner voice becomes something that's unsafe. Listening to that voice can get you into a lot of trouble. Listening to that voice can not only get you disfellowshipped or isolated, you not only lose your family, but it could give you cosmic retribution from God, because that is a sin. You thinking those thoughts about that sister who's, got her dress a little low cut there in the kingdom hall, that eternal destruction for you, my friend. Okay, I'm exaggerating there, but you get the point, right? You start to second guess yourself. And I think it's insidious when you get to a point where your preference, your intuition, your desire for self discovery, your desire for self direction, your desire to further your life is labeled the voice of the devil. The devil is influencing you to want these things. These are things that are said. These are things that are, you know, that unfolded before our eyes, and as you grow and as you mature as a human being, you get to become an adult who doesn't know what they want, an adult who doesn't trust themselves, an adult who has a difficulty just doing basic things because you have a fear of getting it wrong. It's something that's just so deep, so it runs behind the paradigms of, let me put it this way, it's something that's invisible, that's subconscious, because it's developed in you at a young age, at a formative age, and in your formative years as you grow. So it's very difficult to see. It's very difficult to see that you're now substituting fear with caution. You think you're being cautious, now you're just afraid. You start substituting compliance with wisdom, right? You think just because you are complying with your community, you're getting the approval of your community, that is wisdom, because that's all you've been trained to think. You've been wired to seek compliance, to seek approval. Your independence has been taken from you, right? And, you know, as you start coming out of this high control space, those are things that you're going to have to develop, right? And again, I keep saying this, but I was very lucky that my wife didn't grow up in this environment, um, that she was not even aware of this. It was weird to her. She thought I was making stuff up when I was telling her some of my experiences. Like, what? No, I know your parents. They will never do that. I'm like, oh, until over time she got to see what I was talking about. You know, but I was lucky in that because of that, she had a certain level of grace that I didn't have. She had a certain level of independence that I didn't have, right? Independent thought, trusting yourself. So as you're coming out, you're going to see that you're developing your inner voice is going to feel unsafe, feel uncomfortable, because it is, right? You're going against the things that you knew and you don't know where the footing is. And you've never done this before. And everything feels like it could be the end, right? Um, and the path to developing that inner voice, you know, is listening to your preferences, making mistakes, going on a journey of self-discovery, right? Because this is my personal belief, but you know, the reason I was created to be on this earth is to be me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be unique. I wouldn't be different from somebody else, right? It's to be me. But to be me isn't a performance, it's a discovery. Every day I'm discovering what it is to be me, right? I don't know what me is tomorrow, right? I'm going to see with the environment that I'm in and with the decisions that I've made and how things interact, and I'll discover a me, right? Sometimes I'm proud of me. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes I'm not, right? And that's okay. Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I do great, phenomenal things, right? That's okay. That's part of the journey of self-discovery. And one of the things that out of that discomfort, what starts to happen is you start to develop a response, right? A trigger response to that old voice coming in and shutting down your inner voice. And you start developing questions. Is that what I actually want? Am I just saying that because I'm afraid? You start to ask these questions about what you're actually believing about yourself, right? And these questions are good. I remember for me, the biggest thing was reading the Bible without the Watchtower or the Awake, where they tell you what to read and how to view the scriptures, right? You're sort of programmed every day. You don't read the Bible just by itself. You read it, and there's a narrative that you're supposed to look at the Bible through. So if you read this verse, it comes with that verse, and that's the narrative. They stitch together. But now when I read it for myself, as I'm sort of coming out, I started having my own thoughts. I started leaning on my own understanding. Again, you're taught, do not lean on your own understanding. Fear of Jehovah is the beginning of wisdom. Fear. You're telling me fear? Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. It just doesn't make sense, right? But when you take away that fear, or as that fear starts to reside, you can read the Bible and make your own conclusions. You can read the Bible and say, from what I'm seeing here, doesn't make the same, I don't draw the same conclusions as what I've been told. Um, this doesn't make sense to me, right? Those questions that you all have and that you've had for years that haven't been answered. You're given this roundabout theology that is logic, that a generation starts here and ends there, but then if there's an overlapping, so your great grandfather and yourself are the same generation, right? Ludicrous. So you can start to develop your own questions and say, that doesn't make sense to me anymore. That's part of you developing your own voice. Are you going to be right about the Bible? No. Are you going to be right about a friend, a investment decision, a trusting somebody with something, a friendship, a relationship, a going somewhere? No, you're going to make tons of mistakes, and that's beautiful. It's beautiful. That's what life is all about. Because you are an awesome person. You were built in God's image. You were built in God's image, and it's okay to be you. And you know, even when you're not sure, that's okay. It's a journey. You know. Um, so yeah, I just thought I would offer some insights. You know, and like I said in the beginning, we have these conversations about all the terrible things that we experienced and how they impacted us, but it's not on anybody else to fix your life and make it suitable for you. It's on you to do that. It's on me to figure out what I want my life to be like and what changes I need to make to suit the life that I want, right? How I want to live. What relationship do I want to have with the Creator, with God, with the universe? What relationship do I want to have with society, with friends? You know, these are things that you have to do on your own. And whether it's Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and the millions of cults that we see all out there, um, you know, whether they are bad intentions, good intentions, you know, that may be above our pay grade. But what is in your pay grade is your life. And when you were told that approval from the community is a responsibility, now you know your responsibility is you, how you react to things, how you process things, the decisions you make, right? The self direction you take, and those types of things. And my hope is to share some of the more positive and practical methods in that journey alongside with the stories. The stories are part of our lives. These are things that we experienced and we are recovering from. They give the backdrop to our lives now. And we take the pieces and we move on. And so yeah, I hope there wasn't another spam call. Otherwise, I'm not recording this again. I'm not doing a third take. I've got things to do. You know, so fingers crossed. But I hope you enjoyed that, guys. It is an absolute pleasure for me doing these videos. Like I said, it's cathartic. It's really cathartic. If you find value in it, let me know. I'd love to hear your stories. I love the comments, and I'm sure that's part of you know that's just part of it is the theological arguments. I don't think that I'm going to convince somebody about my theology, in a 20-minute video or a long post on YouTube. Um, I think how we make each other feel is what matters, right? And so sharing stories, reading some of the stories in the comments and connecting with people there, I really enjoy that. The other stuff when it comes to, Jehovah's Witnesses trying to sort of fight back in the comments. If you feel you need to, that's fine. If that's what you need to, go ahead. Just remember that, you are a reflection of your religion when you're doing that, and how you conduct yourself can push people away. You might be absolutely right about your theology, right? About that specific thing that you're talking about. But if you brandish it like a weapon, you're going to leave more dead bodies than saved souls, right? So that's just my plea to people in the comments. But otherwise, I'd love to hear stories and not sermons. But either way, it's all okay, guys. I love you guys. Cheers.